Hello and welcome back to Instagram for Bosses. I'm Andrea and my mission is to simplify Instagram marketing so you can consistently attract ready to invest clients without posting every day or living on your phone. Today, I want to start with a struggle I hear all the time from business owners at every level and stage of growth. I just don't know what to post on Instagram to actually make a difference. And every time I hear it, my response is the same, because the problem is almost never what the business owner thinks it is. So today, I'm going to give you the exact framework that fixes this permanently. Not a list of content ideas or trending formats to copy, but a way of thinking about content that means you'll always know exactly what to post, why you're posting, and who it's for. So let's get into it. The first thing I want you to understand before we move on to anything else is that you're not stuck because you don't know enough about your industry. You're an expert, have years of knowledge and real client experience, and you have genuine insight that your ideal client would pay good money to access. That's not the problem. And you're not stuck because Instagram doesn't work in 2026 or the algorithm is working against you. The real reason most business owners don't know what to post is actually so much simpler and more fixable than either of those things. It all comes down to the way they approach content creation. They usually approach it as a creative exercise when it's actually a marketing exercise. They're asking, what should I post? When the question they should really be asking is, what am I trying to achieve? And who am I trying to reach? That one simple shift in thinking changes everything, and it's exactly what today's episode is about. So let me give you a real example before I walk you through the full framework, because I think seeing it in action first is going to make everything click so much faster. So say you own a boutique reformer Pilates studio and you're about to launch a new class. You sit down to plan your Instagram content and immediately hit a wall. What do I post? Do I just announce the class? Do I show equipment? Maybe I share a testimonial? Well, here's how a marketer approaches that exact same moment. And I want to go deep with you on this example because the more specific I am, the more useful it'll become for you, regardless of your industry. Before we write a single word of content for a studio like this, we would sit down with the owner and ask her to tell us exactly what her ideal client says out loud. Not what the owner thinks she says, the actual words used by her clients. The phrases that come up again and again in inquiry forms, DMs, or maybe in the first 5 minutes of a consultation. And what comes out might sound something like this. Why she wants to start Pilates. I want to feel confident in my body again. I just want to do something for myself for once. I feel like I've lost myself. I want to look and feel good again on what has been stopping her. I just don't know where I'll find the time. Can I really justify spending this money on myself? I keep putting everyone else first. The kids, work, the house. I feel guilty investing in myself when there's so much else going on. And on what changes after a few weeks of showing up consistently. She feels like her old self again, more positive, more energized, sleeping better, in a better mood, not just physically stronger, but mentally clearer. Now look at what you have. You haven't just got a content idea, but you have the exact emotional journey your ideal client is on. You know where she's starting from, what's holding her back, and what she is desperately hoping for on the other side. So when you go back to the question of what to post, the answer is no longer vague. You're no longer guessing, and you now have something that is precise and specific. For the cold audience who's never heard of this studio, she needs to feel seen before she even considers booking. She needs to know that the studio understands her life, not just her fitness goals. So content for her might sound something like this. You keep saying you'll start when things calm down, but between the kids, the work, and the never-ending to-do list, calm down never really comes. This class was built for women exactly like you. 30 minutes, small group, and the 1 hour a week that reminds you that you matter too. Do you see how this example is so much more specific and nuanced than simply just creating a post announcing the new class? It speaks directly to the individual struggle and pain point of that audience, that cold audience that isn't familiar with the Pilates studio. Now, for the warm audience, on the other hand, who's been following and saving posts and thinking about it for a few weeks, she doesn't need more inspiration. She needs permission and a reason to act now rather than waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. So content for her might sound something like, If you've been thinking about joining us, but keep telling yourself you'll find the time next month, I want you to hear this. The time does not magically appear, you have to choose it. The new Reformer class opens this Friday. We have 12 spots available. It's small by design because this is the only way we can give everybody in the room exactly what it needs. Same studio, same launch, completely different content. And every single word of it came directly from the language that the ideal client uses herself. Not from guessing or copying a competitor, but from doing the strategic groundwork first. That is the biggest difference between content that gets likes and content that gets bookings. Now, let me walk you through each of the 3 questions in detail so you can apply this to your own business today. Question 1, what is my biggest goal right now? Most business owners skip this question entirely. They open up Instagram and think about what to post without first thinking about what they are trying to achieve. And those are 2 completely different starting points that produce completely different content. I see this come up all the time when I audit an account. A business owner will have a launch coming up in around 2 weeks, but her content for that month looks exactly the same as every other month. Educational posts, behind the scenes, the occasional client testimonial. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of that individually, but none of it is doing the specific job that her business needs done right now. She's posting to stay consistent rather than posting to achieve something. Your goal might be growing your audience with the right people. It might be warming up followers who have been sitting on the fence, or it might be driving inquiries for a specific service or launch. Whatever it is, name it before you create anything, because your goal determines every single decision that follows, what you post, who you speak to, and what you ask them to do next. Question 2 is, where is my ideal client in their buyer journey? Not everyone following you is in the same place. Some people are just discovering you for the first time today. Some have been following you for months and love what you do, but haven't taken that next step yet. And some are close to a decision and just need the right nudge. Each of these people needs something completely different from you. Content designed to attract a cold audience isn't going to convert someone who's been following you for 6 months. And content designed to convert a warm follower will land completely flat for someone who's never heard of you. This is why so much Instagram content feels generic. It tries to speak to everyone and it ends up resonating with no one. Next week, I'm going to be doing a full deep dive into the framework I use to answer this question for every single client I work with. It's called the 3C formula and it maps out every piece of content to the exact stage of the buyer journey it's designed to serve. Captivate for cold audiences, connect for warm audiences, and convert for hot audiences. If today's episode gives you the 3 questions, next week's episode is going to give you the complete playbook for answering them. So make sure you're following the show so you don't miss it. Question number 3 is, what is the one thing my ideal client needs to hear right now to take them one step closer? This is where the real thinking happens. And I want to spend a little bit more time here because this is the question most business owners find the hardest to answer. Not because it's more complicated, but because it requires you to get out of your own head and into theirs. The answer will be completely different depending on your goal and where your ideal client is in their buyer journey. If you're speaking to a warm audience, your job is to shift a belief or remove a doubt. They already know you exist. What they need is something that moves them closer to feeling confident that you will provide the right solution. So you might need to address a fear that's keeping them from taking that next step or validate the experience that they're currently having. Make them feel understood before you make any offer. And if you're closer to a conversion moment, your job is to tip them over that line. The one thing they need to hear is the cost of waiting, the specific result that they could have, and the reason that now is better than later. Not manufactured urgency, but real consequences of continuing to do nothing. One question, one answer, one piece of content with a clear and specific job. Let me give you one more example so this really lands, because I want you to leave today feeling like you can apply this immediately regardless of your industry. Say for this example, you run a premium bridal hair and makeup studio. You've just opened your books for the following wedding season and you want to attract high-end brides before the season fills up. Same 3 questions. 1, what is your biggest goal? Fill your premium bridal packages for the upcoming season with brides who value quality and have the budget to match. 2, Where is your ideal client in their buyer journey? You've recently engaged brides who are just starting their vendor research. They're cold to you, but they're actively looking. And you have brides who have been following you for a while, saving your posts, watching your work, but they haven't yet made an inquiry. Moving on to number 3, what does each person need to hear? The recently engaged bride who doesn't know you yet needs to see your work at its absolute best and understand immediately that you're not the same as every other bridal artist she's going to come across. She needs to feel the standard before she ever clicks your profile link. Content for her sounds something like, your wedding morning should feel like the best version of yourself, not a version you don't recognize. Here's what that looks like inside our studio. And then the warm follower who's been watching you but hasn't reached out yet needs to understand that waiting has a cost. Your books don't stay open indefinitely. The brides who move first are the ones who get their date secured. So content for her might sound something like, we're now taking inquiries for the upcoming wedding season. If your date is in the diary and you've been thinking about reaching out, now is the time because our books fill earlier than most brides expect. Again, 2 completely different pieces of content, both specific, both purposeful, both created by answering the same 3 questions. So here's what I want you to do this week. Before you create your next piece of content, stop and answer these 3 questions. What's my biggest goal right now? Where is my ideal client in her buyer journey? And what is the one thing she needs to hear to take one step closer? Write them down, answer them honestly, and then create the piece of content. I promise you the difference between creating content with those 3 questions and content created without them is not subtle. One will feel like it was written specifically for the person reading it, and the other will feel like it could have come from anyone. That's the difference between a business who posts and a marketer who converts. And that single shift is finally what makes Instagram stop feeling like a guessing game. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with 2 things. If you've been listening to this episode and you're not completely sure whether your Instagram is set up to generate inquiries, I want to invite you to take my free Instagram assessment. It takes less than 3 minutes and it'll show you exactly where the gaps are in your current strategy and what you should focus on first. The link is in the show notes, so go and take it now while it's fresh in your mind. And if you're ready to stop figuring this out alone and you want a strategic partner who can completely take Instagram off your plate and turn it into a consistent inquiry channel for your business, I'd love to have a conversation. Book a free strategy call with me and we'll look at where you're at, where you want to be, and whether we're the right fit to work together. That link is in the show notes too. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If the episode resonated, take a screenshot and share it to your Instagram stories. Don't forget to tag me at Andrea Marie Creative because I love seeing who's listening and chatting with you over there. And if you haven't already, follow the show so you never miss an episode. If you really want to make my day, you can leave me a rating and review because it really helps the show to grow, reach more business owners, and impact more lives. I hope you have an amazing week and I'll catch you in the next one.